Hi, good morning, guys. Thanks for joining me on a Saturday morning. I thought we had a great program, right, in finance and public interest. You guys played a great role. So I thought that maybe we could have a quick chat, yeah? Your reflections on the series, and maybe what strike you as most important for us as actuaries and for the IFOA. So Ashok, would you like to begin?
Sure. Thanks, Suee. Look, I thought the whole session was fantastic, and the thing that I really took away from it is that the way we manage risk as actuaries at a micro level makes sense at the micro level, but when you add it all up at the macro level, we can be doing immense damage in ways we don't really understand and appreciate. And even though there are lots of other people who are contributing to this, in terms of economists, regulators, accountants, etc., it's very clear to me that the world sees it as being the actuaries who are at fault. And this could be a real risk to the profession. And the profession is being really silent on these issues and needs to speak out. And if we don't, we're going to be seen as a dog that didn't bark.
Thanks for that. Lucy?
I thought it was a really good series, Chieh, and I think it showed that we're not afraid to tackle some of the really challenging questions and problems facing society and the profession. We heard from a lot of economists, and I think it's evident that changes in economic theories and techniques have implications for actuarial work. And I think it's fair to say that the economics profession has been doing some soul searching of its own, particularly since 2008, around the robustness of their theories and the appropriateness of some of the underlying assumptions. And I think as actuaries, we really need to stay engaged with that debate, because we need to understand the consequences for our own work. What are the criticisms, and have we carried any of those over? And we also need to be shaping the conversation. So what alternatives are being put forward? Are we part of that debate? And what makes sense for us given the work that we're doing? The other thing for me that came across strongly was the need to focus on a purpose and values, and that's clearly very relevant to the sustainability agenda, where the stakes are high and quantification isn't always possible. So you're thinking about taking decisions in the context of what you want to achieve as a society.
Thanks, Lucy. Nico, you'd like to continue?
Yeah, I'd like to build on Ashok's point, really. I think first off, it was really good to get the series together and just have such high-profile external views of the actuarial profession. I think that's really important. I think one of the things that really landed with me was Paul Collier talking about USS. And, the rights and wrongs of his discussion, I think, are a separate debate. But he clearly blames the actuaries for what he saw as a ludicrous valuation mechanism, and that the consequences of that was a reduction in university power, essentially. And I was struck by, I don't know that we've got the narrative to talk about the difference between us as referee and us as designing the game. And I think everybody outside of the profession sees us as designing the game, and actually individual actuaries consider themselves to be the referee. And actually, we're both, and we need to be much more clear in doing both roles. And I think about climate change, and I can see exactly the same conundrum coming along, that individual actuaries might say, we're not obliged to react to climate risk, whereas the whole of the outside world is going to say, why on earth are we not reacting to climate risk? So I think for me, that kind of that case study from Paul talking about USS was really important. It really landed that point for me.
Thanks very much. So, Nick Silver, you want to continue?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, that was a really great series. I very much enjoyed being part of it. Well done for organising, Suee. Just to follow on what the others have said, but I think I'll try and offer a solution. So we had two very eminent economists being highly critical of us actuaries, saying that our calculations were spurious and irrelevant, and they caused widespread damage to the UK's economy. And we need to take this seriously. So the criticism was mainly levelled against our work in pensions in the UK, and agree with them or not, most of our pensions work is essentially managing the long-term decline of defined benefit schemes. Whereas if you take a wider view of the system, it's really not fit for purpose. The majority of older people have really good pensions, whereas younger people can't afford a decent pension. And also pensions form a large chunk of our savings, our society savings, yet most of investment is in unproductive financial assets, and when we desperately need long-term sustainable investment. And we're dedicating our careers to this failed system when our skills are valuable skills are desperately needed to develop sustainable long-term solutions. So I propose we need a new system which meets to meet the needs of our modern economy, and I've come up with the 4 S's: the equitable sharing of risk, sustainable investments, the system as a whole needs to be resilient, and assets should be wisely stewarded. And all of these are missing from our current system. So how do we start moving towards this new system? Well, I propose that we could do this by, as a first step, commissioning a high-profile prize competition for ideas for a sustainable pension system. And this is the sort of thing that can stimulate the out-of-box thinking that we need to totally reimagine our system to move towards a different system to the one we have.
Thanks very much, Nick. From my perspective, there are a number of points I'd like to make. One is about the process, about positioning IFOA in the profession, and also how it links to VSMD, our strategy, vision, skill set, mindset, and domains, and then the contents of the discussion, right? So as far as positioning of IFOA in the profession, I think we are at a sweet spot of an inflection point, reflecting the zeitgeist of the time. And I'm very happy and privileged to be able to be working with you guys as thought leaders of the profession. And you spoke well, and I hope that it could start a conversation amongst the membership and the wider world. Then we come to the content, right? Ashok spoke eloquently, and also we debated very often about regulation and products and our role in it, yeah? And we always submit consultation papers, feedback, but clearly that will impact consumer interest or public interest. But regulation is a function of economic narratives and economic systems. And economic systems are embedded in societal narratives and societal movements, yeah? And those are higher levels. And two things emerge, yeah? Two very distinct streams of thinking emerge. One is the march of self-interest started by the Friedman Revolution. I think it's economic theory, Thatcher, Reagan, in response to over-centralization at that point in time. And that is the march of the Washington Consensus, which came unstuck. The other stream is the march of analytical thinking, which is about risk theory and being inadequate to capture radical uncertainty, which is embedded in bigger systemic risk. These two trends actually combine to create the dysfunctionality because we become more systemic. So it is really important that we engage multiple domains, right, to have a real understanding of the systemic risks which we are facing. So uncertainty, the study of uncertainty 400 years ago gave us risk theory, but risk theory and probability theory is insufficient. So we're going to go back to our mindset to ponder about how best to capture uncertainty. So I see that as very much VSMD, about navigating across the paradigm. So I think we are in a sweet spot. So I think we should continue to take forward your ideas on regulation, on the book price, on answering the USS. So with that, I think I'll bring this to this short conversation, this Saturday conversation for the benefit of people who are following ATC to a close. Yeah.